Today we're going to be talking about organised play and sort of backbone templates to work from. First things first though, we need to talk about a few things before we jump right in. First of all, what do I mean by an organised play template? Well, what I mean is a standard loadout for a group of players over a number, a number of ships where the group is all working together towards a common goal. May that be profit, area control, PvP, like anything really that a group of players feels worthy collaborating and coming together to perform. So these templates are sort of good, standardized sort of loadouts for any number of players to sort of take, modify and adjust to meet their needs and fine-tune afterwards. These are sort of the basics, then you can take them and fine-tune them afterwards. Which leads me on to my next point. The numbers here should not be considered optimized in any way, shape or form, because the game is in such an early alpha state. The balance is nowhere near ready what is going to be for a finished product. So with the numbers, I'm kind of just looking at the ships and going, this is what I feel they should be, like numbers wise. This is the ballpark that I personally think they're sort of aiming for, where they're going to end up. So they're sort of very open to interpretation. We might find that some ship, like at release, some of the ships we need to double the amount or half the amount, or we'll see. It's just the numbers aren't going to be accurate at this point in time, though what they're doing is. So that brings us on to our first template I want to talk about today, and I call this one the Bounty Hunting Posse. I have described its goal as a profitable vigilante justice, and I think it's going to require 3 to 8 players basic, and by basic I mean just for the basic sort of backbone ships. There will be extras added on afterwards. The first of these backbone ships I want to talk about is the Anvil Hawk. Now I think this bounty hunting posse is going to need 2 to 4 of these sort of Anvil Hawks, and there's going to be 1 player in each because it's a 1-player fighter. And the reason I think the Anvil Hawk here is like the perfect ship for this role is really the only tailor-made bounty hunting fighter in the game at this point in time. It has both lethal and non-lethal weapons, and even has a cell for capturing 1 NPC or player in. So you've got this perfect little bounty hunting ship, and its role is going to be basically just rolling around trying to do the solo bounty hunting stuff, or maybe grouping up with another 1 or 2 of these ships. So these 4 players are going to go out and hunt people basically in these anvils, and once they've captured someone, that leads us to the next ship, and that is the Cutty Blue, the Drake Interplanetary Cutlass Blue remodel. This ship is a lot like the Cutlass Black, which I hope everyone here knows quite a bit about. It's a very versatile, very good ship, but instead of the storage bay, it has had its storage replaced with cells, and I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's like 6, 8 cells, something like that anyway. And the role of this is basically going to be like not a base, so to speak, for the bounty hunters, but a place for the Hawks to go around, perform their missions, and allow them to sort of nearly industrialize bounty hunting. Because you've got the 2 to 4 Hawks I've described earlier. They're going to go around and they're going to do the bounty hunting and all that. Then they're going to come back to this ship, get their bounties, and then put them in the jail on the Cutlass Blue. So I recommend here, I've been thinking 1 to 2 Cutlass Blues will be good for this posse, and then there'll be 1 to 2 players in each. A lot of the time when I've been making these groups, I've been like a ship like the Freelancer or Cutty, I've been thinking, no, just forget the turrets, 1 person, because adding an extra person would be a lot of extra, like, because if the goal's profit and you're adding people that are surplus to need, then that could be like, you're just cutting the profit more ways than it needs to be. You're lowering your income for everyone, kind of thing. So you don't really want to be taking people that are surplus to requirement. So with that said though, I don't feel the second person in the Cutlass Blue is going to be surplus to requirement. A lot of the time when you're getting bounties, especially if you're grouping a lot of these bounties together, that is going to start becoming a pretty promising target. Maybe you've got angered a couple of people and they want to rescue their buddies that you've got locked up in the back of that Cutlass Blue. An extra hand on deck to man the turret or just be an extra person to repel boarders could be very, very important. But again, I don't think it's 100% necessary, so which is why I've got it 1 to 2 players each instead of just 2 players each. It's going to be one of those times where risk versus reward. Do you think you can get away with it? Do you really need that second person? Or in the cases where you've got an extra person wanting to join, you're not going to feel bad. You're going to be like, yeah, it's not a big deal. He can join. We might need him. We might, like, it should still be profitable. That might be really handy. It's not just going to be, yeah, we're letting him join to share in our cut for no reason whatsoever. So, yeah. So those 2 ships there that we've already described covers the basic players that we talked about earlier, the 3 to 8 basic players. They were all manning the Anvil Hawks and the Cutty Blues. But now I want to go on to extras, and these are things that I think would be very handy or add a new approach or do something important to help this group out, and sort of like not mandatory but could be very useful sort of thing. So with that all said, let's talk about the first extra I want to describe, and that is the Cutlass Red, Drake Interplanetary Cutlass Red variant, whatever you want to call it. And it is basically a lot like the Cutty Blue and the Cutty Black, except instead of having its storage bay removed and turned into police cells, or cells, not police, it has its storage bay replaced with a medical bay. And it also loses the turret, which is why I'm saying 1 Cutlass Red, 1 player, always. Though even if it did have the option for 2 players, I wouldn't really recommend it, unless I suppose you're just wanting an extra gun around if you really think you're going to get boarded. But the red won't be the boarding target, it'll be the blues. And so yeah, the goal of this ship would be just to stick around the Cutty Blues and be a medic when you're out bounty hunting. Even if you are using non-lethal weapons to try and capture your foe, there's a high chance you're going to badly hurt, maim, injure the party you're trying to capture. And having a medical facility at your beck and call when you get him back to the Cutty Blues, like, oh, there's no point putting that guy in the cell, he's going to die in 5 minutes, we're never going to get him back to the prison and get our money. What's it? Well, put him in the med bay, make sure you've got a couple of people standing over him, guarding, or whatever, he's unconscious, heal him, then throw him in the prison. That would be incredibly useful. And that is not also taking into account that you may be using non-lethal weapons to try and apprehend your bounty, but that doesn't mean your bounty is going to be using non-lethal weapons to target you. I see a lot of the time when you're getting back and you're like, right, let's throw this guy in the cell. Brilliant, we've got that bounty, but before I go up and get my next bounty, I've got a big giant bullet hole in my arm. Maybe I should go onto the Cutty Red and get that patched up before I go out and try and wrangle us up another bounty. So yeah, that is the goal of this, like, posse, that's everything sort of fulfilled. Now on to the next extra, and I'm not really sure how often this one will be used as part of the bounty hunting posse. It really depends if you're going to be trying to apprehend people on planets, in stations, or in space, tracking down their ships. And so it could be real useful to have, I've put 1 here, but it might be very useful to have several to go around following your hawks around and helping them. And did I say the name of the ship? I don't think I did, but I'll say it now, the RSI Mantis. Yeah, 1 player each, little, it's basically a fighter that's not good at fighting, but it can interdict other ships. So yeah, if you're having trouble chasing people down in space because they keep escaping you, this might be the way to go. You might want to start bringing a couple of these along to just help out. You could send, you could have your blues and your optional red stay somewhere safe, and then have like groups of 2 hawks go off on their own with a mantis each on their own, and each of those mantises would have 1 player in each. But then you're adding more players, that's more profit to be shared aloud, the same profit, there we go, finally said the right thing, the same profit to be shared around more players, so it's going to be less profitable for each player involved. The last extra I've got for this ship, I'm actually quite excited for, because it completely adds a whole new option to this sort of bounty hunting posse, and that is a Valkyrie. Now, for this scale of operations, I would only recommend taking 1, possibly 2 if you're looking to take like 20 troops or something like that, so you're wanting to sort of half the risk of them getting all shot down, you have to put 10 on each. But the Valkyrie is a troop, like dropship, so say these are probably going to need more than the 4 hawks, 2 cutty blues, and a cutlass red, and a couple of mantises. You're probably going to need a wee bit more firepower than that if you want to do this, so you might want to double up on the bounty hunting posse basic. But if you were going to take down, say, Drake Kraken full of pirates, and you wanted to just like, right, round them all up, get them on like some ships and take them to a prison, the Valkyrie would be a needed asset here. It's giving you the option to like board a ship with lots of troops, because it has the capacity to carry 20 troops, and here I've put it as 5 to 20 troops in the back, depending on the scale of things you're going after. If it's just a little tiny little base somewhere, you probably would be just as well loading up in the back of the cutty blue, actually, at that sort of scale. But large scale, like taking on, say, a Kraken, you're almost definitely going to want a Valkyrie to go in and like land, deploy the troops, get in there, non-lethal them all, get them off, happy days. And if you were doing this approach, I would think you'd almost always going to want the full free players on the Valkyrie. If you were taking the 2, you'd probably, I don't know, probably still want the full free on each Valkyrie. It's because you've got the 1 pilot, then you've got the 2 sort of turret mounts with the hefty firepower on each mount. I can't remember, is it size 4, size 5? It's big Gatling guns anyway. I remember that, it comes with big Gatling guns as default. So yeah. So we've talked about the bounty hunting posse. I want to move on to the next sort of template now, and I've called this one strip mining. The goal for this one is mining on an industrial scale, and I think it's going to need 4 to 7 players for its basics. But I would think the way I would do it is I would half that and split it over a couple of days, but we'll talk about that at the end. So what ships does this thing have, template have as basic? And we'll start things off with the Prospector. And for the Prospector, which is your basic sort of mining ship, I think you'd want 2 to 3 Prospectors with 1 player in each, obviously, because it's a 1 player thing. The real job of these ships is quite simple. They go around, much like the Anvil Hawks were before. These are the sort of workhorse, the back, I don't know why I was going with that, but yeah, the workhorse of this template. They go around, they do the mining, they sort of fill up on their minerals, and then they just sort of pop the minerals into their baskets over the side and move on, mine the next thing, leave it there as a nice little crate for the next ship to come along. And that next ship is a freelancer or a cutty, or just any sort of medium sort of scale ship that has sort of good all-round stats. It's got good storage, it's got good everything really for what it is. And I would say just the freelancer, because it's got the much better defenses, and I'm not recommending you take a second player for this, because you're not going to be looking for a fight, and you're not going to have huge massive amounts of minerals. It's going to be unrefined at this stage, so you're not going to be that juicy and promising a target. So I really don't think you're going to really need that second player just to be the turret gunner. But the reason I did mention the cutty is it comes with a tractor beam standard, which the freelancer doesn't. So it'll be much faster for a freelancer to then just land near some stuff, get the tractor beam the goods into the back of the vehicle, and off you go to go wherever you're taking it. But the freelancer does have that larger hold, so even though you're going to have to be manually getting the resources on the ship, you're going to be able to take about, I think it's about 30% extra, because that's 46 to 66 storage units. I'm pretty sure the difference is. But yeah, both those, I'm rambling here about the Cutty Black and Freelancer, which is, every time they come up, it's hard not to do. But yeah, any ship like those two will do, and the job of this ship is to gather the resources that the prospector unloads over the side. You go around between the three prospectors, two or three go around between the 2 or 3 prospectors, rounding up all their stuff, taking it to a refinery, their own personal little hidden refinery, or a refinery on a port, or just somewhere safe where those goods can be refined and be allowed to build up. And that's where the next ship comes in, and that will be a medium to large freight cargo hauler type of ship. So a Hull C, any of the larger Hull series really, a merchantman, anything like that, really, just anything that is big, beefy, well, not beefy as in tanky, beefy as in is big, and can take a lot of storage. It is going to it's going to come in once these goods have been refined into their more profitable state. It is going to then pick up the cargo, and it's going to go, right, where's the best place to sell this? Ha! 2 systems that way. They really need this resource. They're buying it for a heck of a lot. Right, off we go. Boo! Go and sell, and then everyone takes a greater slice of the pie thanks to it being sold at a much better price. So those 3 ships were the basic backbone, what you need for this sort of template. And now we're moving on to extras. And there is only one extra I've got for this one, and that is fighters. 1 to 2 fighters. Military grade or civilian. Could be any of the fighters really, from a Gladiator to the... was it the Mustang Gamma was the fighter variant? I can't remember which one it is. But yeah, the fighter variants of ships. 2 fighters, 2 players, 1 to 2. And that is for this sort of final stage when the huge big freight vehicle is taking it to its destination to sell at the higher profit. This will be a very juicy target for pirates, and if you were doing this in like a high threat area, you probably would want more than the 2 fighters, and they wouldn't be in the extras. They would be in the basic backbone, what you need. But the reason it is in the extras is because say you're doing it somewhere that's very, very safe, like it's a core system, lots of like police going around, you're not really going to need the escort. You're going to be fine just going on your own. So it really depends where you are. But then obviously those more risky outer sort of systems are going to have more risks with more rewards. So it's going to be a balancing act. Where's the most profitable reliantly? And yeah, I could take the slightly more risky route and everyone will make more money, but there's a large chance we're all going to fall flat on our face and get absolutely nothing. Pros and cons here. So just now that we've talked about it and everyone sort of understands this template, I don't think I'd do this all in like a 1 session type thing. The way I'd probably run it is with 3 players or 4 players. 3 of them, or if the way I would probably run it is with 4 players, say 3 in the Prospector, 1 in the Freelancer or Cutty, and then they basically just do their roles, and then you do that for a couple of hours. You fill up your refinery base you've built with lots and lots of goodies. Then it's going to take overnight to refine, and you're like, brilliant. We'll just log out. Let's happy high five everyone. Good work. We've made good progress today. Then you just log back in the next day, and you just don't go back into the same ships. You just pull up your cargo hauler. Then a couple of you get into fighters, the other 2 get into the cargo hauler, and then you haul all these goods like I described earlier. I would split this organised play over like 2 sessions like that, because you are going to have that sort of middle time where the goods are needing to refine, and we've not seen what that looks like in game. That could be 10 minutes, it could be days, it could be anything really. And the way I imagine it is there will be a lot of variety. Like imagine if you were just in the prospector on your own, you loaded up, filled it up, and then went back to a refinery. I don't think it'd take long. I think it'd be like 10 minutes. But you've got 3 prospectors constantly mining with no downtime, and then you've got like 2 hours worth of that all back. I would expect that to take around a day to refine all of that. Which also leads me on, I want to mention, as an organisation, this could be a very profitable thing for an organisation. And they could have, say you've got 100 people in your organisation and you're regularly logging on and doing this. It might be much better for you instead of thinking of it as like a organised session, like where you're all going to log in at the same time. You might just have, like, at any one time 5 players out mining, and at any one time 2 players going, well, there's quite a bit of cargo there they've left us wee notes saying, right, there's this and this and this area. We'll go pick that all up, and then they go pick it all up, and then you just take it back to your little base, and then you are refining it in your base, and every so often, like, you can go, right, we've got quite a lot, or we're getting nearly to capacity here, we don't have much storage room left, let's get like a big convoy on the go, and we'll go off and sell it, and then everyone in the org gets their fair share. But then it's going to get complicated. Like, oh, that guy logged 5 hours mining, and that guy only logged 2 hours mining. But when that guy was 5 hours mining, he was AFK half the time because he was watching videos at the same time. So the guy that did 2 hours mining made nearly as much. You know, there's going to be a lot of push and shove, and it's going to have to be some defined rules for how much profit everyone gets. Because you can see this quickly when you've got that organisation sort of situation, it gets out of hand. And we're getting a wee bit too much into speculation here, we're getting sort of derailing the video, so I think it's time to move on to our next template. And that next template is our beloved role-playing pirate gang from last time. The goal of this one is very obvious, like, they want your booty, and they're coming to get it as they roleplay. For the basic players for this one, I've put 6+. Which is sort of like an open-end thing, because I feel this is one that is very much, the more players the better, the more players you get, the sort of juicier targets you can go after. There isn't going to be a sort of end sort of thing for this one. It's just going to be literally, you've got this many players, how's best to use them, and what's the juiciest target you can go after. The first ship here I want to talk about, and is in the backbone of it, is the Drake Kraken. And I've got one of them, 5+ players here, as sort of basics, what it needs. The ship is described as a maximum number of players as 10. But when I was looking at the turrets and all that, the configuration, I think around 5 would be the sort of minimum sweet spot, so to speak. And then extra players would just be nice, fine and dandy, but might be more beneficial to be elsewhere. Just because then with 5 players, I think it was 5 or 6 players, you'd have all the turrets manned, all the main consoles manned, obviously a pilot, and so yeah, that's going to be happy days at that point in time. Then obviously, when you're not in combat, the people on the turrets can jump off and do other things, like say help repair ships or whatever. You're going to get that sort of, you're going to need around that amount of players to run it basic. And obviously the job here for the Kraken is going to be the being a mobile base for these pirates. Kind of like how the Cutty Blues were for the bounty hunting posse above. It's going to have a really large storage capacity so that you can have all your pirates coming back that are unloading all their goods, and then you have got be able to build up a huge amount of capacity of goods and then take that to a fence and sell it, so you've got less travel time, more uptime kind of thing going on there. And it's also giving you a lot of facilities that a lot of pirate ships don't have easy access to, like additional beds, well, for the like buccaneer ships and stuff like that, food creation facilities, medical facilities, all those lovely things that pirates are going to really need to spend and have around the verse, but because they're pirates, they're going to have limited access to. Which moves us on to our next ship, and that is going to be the Cutty Black. Here I've put 1 to 3/4. And there's a reason I've put 3/4 here. And that is because, well, we'll start off with the Kraken. I did a bit of research into the Kraken before because I didn't know how this would work. The Krakens, obviously, they're mobile base, and it'll be used in their sort of heftier, like if they're going after something bigger, they're going to have the Kraken there to be the hefty punch. But how does it work with ships that land on it? If you land your ship on it, then you go to bed and on the Kraken, does that mean your ship despawns? No, your ship stays spawned and on that landing pad. So you're not going to be able to have multiple, many cutties on, like, just rotating who's on the pad at what time for whatever reason. Which is a wee bit frustrating if you want. You're going to start needing to get several Krakens if your pirate gang is really big, because you're going to need more ships basically. You're only ever going to be able to have online or offline 4 Krakens at max on your ship, and even then you might only want 3 Kraken. Did I say Krakens? I meant cutlasses, because they're not despawning. They're going to keep taking up that landing pad. So even if the players that normally roll with are offline, they're still taking up that landing pad. Which is why I'm sort of saying maxing it out at the 3/4. Because at 4, that's all your bay, medium bays taken up. Your 2 on the surface of the vessel, like the top, the runway, so to speak, if it was a regular aircraft carrier, are taken up, and then your 2 internal hangars. And the reason I'm saying 3 or 4 here is I don't think it's a good idea to have both your internal hangars fully occupied a lot of, like, at all really. I'd rather have 1 spare at all times, because that's how you're going to repair. Like, you can only repair ships in your internal hangars. You can only I don't know about refuel, and I think you can refuel on the other hangars, but that is going to be your your internal hangars are your workshops. You're going to need at least 1 free at all times for other ships, even the small ships, to come in and repair. Which is why I've got 3 to 4. And then 1 to 2 players each for the Cutty Blacks. And yeah, Cutty Black, pretty obvious what these ships are going to be doing. Their job is to go around and be part of the pirates, pirating actively. And then once they've got the goods from their pirating, their job is to sort of pour whatever goods back into the Kraken via landing, getting the goods off. It doesn't have to be an internal hangar for this, because they did say that there will be elevators going up to the sort of landing pads on the surface, on the runway, for the goods. So you can land them on anywhere really, and then have the goods go on the elevator, back into the internal storage of the Kraken. And with the tractor beam, they're going to be really good at this role. They've got a lot of firepower, they're maneuverable, so they're good for the pirating itself. The Cutty Blacks are going to be amazing. They're going to be the workhorse of this sort of template. There we go, there's the word I was looking for. And for the last ship that I can see as being the backbone is Buccaneers. And the reason, again, Buccaneers is they're cheap, they're dirty, and these guys are role-playing Drake pirates. 0 to 4 of them, because there's 0 to 4 landing bays per Kraken, and 1 player each. Simple enough. Good little bit of extra firepower, but they don't really add anything special like the Black, given the sort of tractor beam and the bus back to the Kraken is literally just more firepower, just another fighter. That's what they're there for, just to facilitate the pirating, facilitating you getting the goods. So now let's move on to the extras for this pirate gang. And the first ship I want to talk about here in the extras is the Vultures. And I'm sort of guessing 1 to 2 Vultures is probably going to be the way to go if they take these guys along. They are Drake, so they're fitting in with that sort of pirate feel role-playing thing perfect, and they would be one player each, just like the Buccaneers, except you've got to remember what we were talking about earlier about how the landing pads are only going to be able to have a certain number of ships on them. They would be taking up a slot for the Buccaneer, so there's going to be that sort of, do we really need the Buccaneers? Would we be better off with the Vultures? I'm not really sure. But what is the Vulture? The Vulture is a ship that is actually coming really soon to Star Citizen, and I'm quite excited to see it because I'm quite excited to try and sample the gameplay that's going to be coming with it. Now, I wouldn't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure the Vulture's coming in 3.8, and then the mechanic that's coming with it's coming in 3.9, because it's a salvage ship, and it might be the... I might be getting it, because I remember the ship's coming in one patch, and then it's just going to be flyable. It's not going to be functioning as in its role, which is salvaging things, and that's coming the patch after. I think it's 3.8 and 3.9, but it might be 3.9 and 4.0. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, we're getting sidetracked again. The Vulture, salvage ship. The pirates are going to be going around, and they're going to be like attacking like hull seas, that type of thing, and then stealing all its cargo and running away and selling it. That is the goal of these pirates. But say when they're stealing the goods, they're going to end up destroying a lot of things too. These Vultures are going to be able to allow them to sort of min-max their profits. They're going to be like, right, we've pinched all the goods from this hull sea. It's a wreck now. Let's send out the Vultures will haul it away, and they'll take it to a salvage yard, tire it to parts, get extra money. Just sort of maximising the profit for this gang. The reason I'm saying definitely Vultures instead of... definitely go Vultures instead of going, say, a full-blown Reclaimer is it's starting to feel like it's a whole second sort of organised play thing you've got going on there. The Reclaimer, if they had one, would obviously be better than the Vultures, but then the Reclaimer itself is going to be a very large, a very obvious target for something that's not going to be used all the time. Like, yeah, the Vultures, when they're sitting on the pads, are still going to be targets, but they're like, who the hell, when you're fighting off a Drake Kraken, is going to be like, shoot the Vultures! Shoot the Vultures! Whereas, when you're in a huge battle and this Kraken comes out of nowhere and is tearing you a new backside, and you say they've got a Reclaimer too, you could be thinking, well, there's no way I'm taking on the pirates, the Krakens and that. I'm just going to destroy this to a spite, and it's a big, huge, obvious target of the Reclaimer, so yeah, which is why I've went for the Vultures here, and it suits them as well because it's Drake, whereas the Reclaimer isn't. The last extra ship here I've got, for very obvious reasons, is the RSI Mantis. It is an RSI ship, it is not a Drake ship, so... but it does add a lot of options for these players. I've put one here, with one player, but really you'd probably want to have one per group going off. So say you've got two cutlasses going off to ransack that, then you've got two staying with the Kraken that are going after this hull sea. And so you've got the two sort of ops running parallel to each other. You'd probably want a Mantis in each. But again, they're each going to take up a space on your ship, which I'm pretty sure they fit on the small pads. So again, that's be less Buccaneers you can take. One thing I do like to think about as well is how I was talking about earlier, how always keeping that internal hangar spare for repairs, that kind of thing. When you're going into battle and the Mantis is with a Kraken, I think it might be, I don't know if it's how the mechanics are going to work here, but it might be a good idea for the Mantis always to go into that spare internal hangar and deploy its interdiction from there if possible. I've not seen anything saying you can or can't do the interdiction from inside another ship. I don't see, the way the mechanics works at the moment, I don't see why it wouldn't work, but I could see them changing it in the future. And the whole reason is that internal hangar has obviously is inside the Kraken, they're not going to be able to get at it. Whereas, once again, a bit like we were talking about the Reclaimer earlier, the Mantis is going to be a very obvious target because that's stopping them from escaping. If they destroy the Mantis, they can escape, and it's going to make having the Mantis there, well, pointless, and they're going to escape. You're not going to want them to escape. That's the whole point of it being there. So having the Mantis on the inside of the Kraken means that basically you're just giving the Kraken the interdiction ability, because they're not getting through the Kraken. That's the point. You're not going into fair fights here. You're pirating. You're going into fights where you can just overwhelm and steal stuff. And with all that, I want to then move on to my next template I've got here that I've designed, and I call this one French Fries, Mother Trucker. And I've listed its goal as being karma, bitches. And I'm thinking 7/13 plus players. Why 7/13 plus players? Why not just 7 plus players? You'll find out in a moment. The first ship that is the backbone, is the biggest backbone of this, is the Drake Caterpillar. And the Drake Caterpillar is a sort of medium freight. It's a large ship, but it's not quite capital class size. It's just large, and it's freight. So for freight, by freight standards, it's sort of like a medium, small freight carrier cargo ship. So yeah, why the Caterpillar? What's the Caterpillar? Well, some of you might have already guessed where I'm going to be going with this, because it's quite a fun concept. And that concept involves the storage sections of the Caterpillar. You've got 5 sort of storage modules on the Caterpillar that run down the middle of the, well, run down the sort of stalk of the ship, the sort of body of the ship. And the first 4 of them open up on the sides, revealing like brilliant view of the storage out into space. And then the one at the front opens up forward and gives you a very similar view forward. And I think you should cram this thing as full of ballistas and Merlin fighters as you can. Now I'm thinking, that's the reason why I've got the 7 or 13 plus players, because I'm not really sure how many you're going to be able to fit in. I think you're probably going to be able to fit in 2 ballistas per storage section, and then at the front, which is where because you're going to want the maximum broadside, like the ballista is basically the ground missile to air destruction vehicle. It has several missiles, lots of missiles. It can fire missiles really fast, and you can see it just deletes things like fighters that are flying overhead. So if you have like it, you're going to easily be able to fit in 4. I think it's possible you might be able to fit in 8 ballistas, which is why I've got the maybe 7 players, maybe 13 plus players. And then into the front section, again, you're going to easily be able to fit in 1 Merlin, maybe 2 Merlins. And then they're the little snub fighters that are going to come out and finish off whatever the ballistas have not mopped up. So yeah, like, just think of this. You're a group of pirates and you're like, ha! An undefended Drake Caterpillar. Brilliant! Right, we're gonna go get ourselves some sweet, sweet booty, lads. You just come up alongside it and like, right, open up. We won't kill you as long as you just let us take the goods. We'll leave your ship alive. Just open up. So then you do. You open up the sides. Then just as the pirates think, wait a minute, that's not a store. Boom, they're all deleted by an absolute ton of missiles coming out the side. That one little buccaneer that was like, oh crap, and managed to get out of the way, all of a sudden it's got 2 little snub fighters on its tail, and it's gone too. Oh, it brings a tear to my eye. But yes, I have got, I'd really recommend you max out the number of players, because I don't know how effective this is going to be quite honest. And I'm not really sure. And obviously it's all going to depend on the size of the pirates that are attacking you. If you could add more caterpillars, you could, if you've got enough players, have several caterpillars all fully loaded out with all these ballistas and Merlin's fighters, and you probably wouldn't even need that many. I'd estimate probably 2 caterpillars full of ballistas would destroy a Kraken. I think it's around the ballpark I think you'd need. But there'd be a lot of testing. I'd love to just see the potential of this and how effective it is. And I really hope you can get the 8 ballistas and 2 Merlins on the 1 Kraken. Just imagine that. 2 caterpillars, that'd be 16 ballistas. Just imagine the missiles, firepower that'd be coming out of that. I have added an extra section to the ships basic sort of thing, and that's a 0+ on foot player. Like, on foot? What do you mean by that? I just mean people in the storage bays of the Merlin, the storage bays of the Merlin? What size of Merlin am I seeing? The Caterpillar, because there is a new gun coming, I think it's in 3.8, they've been talking about recently, and it's from Apocalypse Arms again, and it's a missile launcher that fires 3 small missiles in quick succession, so obviously it's going to have nowhere near the firepower of a ballista, but 3 small missiles is nothing to sniff your nose at. 2 players with these, I would say, should easily be able to take out a Buccaneer. So yeah, just having any surplus players you've got on the in the cargo areas with these missile launchers over their side, and just open up just to add to that firepower, that alpha strike of oh shit when the pirates realise it's missiles coming their way, not cargo. I think this is a really sort of fun thing to do. It's obviously not going to be profitable at all. You might be able to make a tiny bit of money on bounties, but again, you're going to be killing the pirates, so you're not going to be able to take them back to jail or prison or whatever to claim the extra money. And plus, the number of players involved is... If you were bounty hunting, the bounty hunting posse is a much better template for that. This is just a pure fun, sticking it, getting revenge on the pirates type of thing. Like, they think that you've got the Caterpillar, which is this juicy little piece of bait, and then all of a sudden opens up and it's got fangs. Yes, I think that is really sort of fun potential here. I have no idea if this would work, but if it does, oh boy, that'd just be the perfect moment, wouldn't it? And moving on to the last sort of template I want to talk about here, because I'm trying to sort of cover as many sort of core aspects of the game as possible, and I call this one Cargo Secured. Its goal is going to be sort of like the higher risk sort of trade runs, freight runs, because I was going to do one for low risk as well, but then I realised there's not much point. You basically just, in the low risk areas, just take as many cargo ships as you can and get as much cargo on them. Hey presto, just made as big as profit as possible. So I have listed its goal as a high risk, high reward profit run, and I have recommended 8+ players, because much like the pirate one, the more players you've got, the sort of more ships you can add, just more cargo haulers, more defenses, more cargo haulers, more defenses. It's going to be one of those open-ended ones where the more players, distribute them more, and this sort of template sort of is a guideline, and then hey presto, more profit for everyone. So the first thing you're going to need is a very large freight ship. The Hull series, for example, has some very large freight ships. Just any of them really, anything really that can just haul an awful lot of cargo and doesn't require a lot of crew to do so. So like the Hull C to E, Merchantman, that sort of thing you're looking for. And its role is very sort of obvious. It's just carrying the goods from A to B, and doesn't have a huge amount of crew, doesn't have lots of turrets demand, just keeping the number of players required low. But then it is high risk, so it is going to need some protection. And to be its protection, I've chosen actually the Drake Kraken. Now, you could argue almost any defenses would work here, but there isn't a reason I've chosen the Kraken, and I've said for this basic template I've got 1 Kraken, 5+ players, much like the pirate gang above. But Kraken? It's a pirate ship. Why the Kraken? Because it's a pirate ship. Pirate ships of this scale have a very large cargo bay, so it itself is going to be able to take a lot of cargo. So it's not going to have a lot of cargo compared to the cargo ship, but it's going to be able to sort of pay for itself, protection-wise. If you get what I'm saying, it's going to be able to taking a Kraken, you're going to be able to get the money back that you're losing from taking it, and the players coming along, just from selling the cargo you put in the Kraken's hold. Because you might even want to... See, this is one of the parts where we're going to have to wait and see how things work out, how the economy balances out. Because it might be a good idea in these high-risk areas, high-risk, high-profit, to not take cargo ships like the Hull C and that at all. Just take Krakens with the number of players, because it might be just... You're just turning the risk into basically nothing. Pirates aren't going to want to go for a fair fight. If you're going along, you've got 3 Krakens just full of juicy cargo. The pirates might just think you're other pirates. They might just... Like, they're not going to want to risk like a fair fight, which they could lose and then lose a lot of money. Yeah, you see where I'm going with this. Then what was, after you've got the Kraken, you're going to want to load the Kraken up with extra firepower, like the Buccaneers, well, probably not the Buccaneers for this one, because they're not role-playing. You're probably going to want to take some heftier fighters, maybe Gladiuses, something like that. The Cutty Black would still be a really good option to load up on your Kraken. I've just sort of copy and pasted the above Pirate Gang bit here just to save quite a bit of time, because really, you just know how a Kraken's going to get loaded up. Just 4 small ships, I would recommend 3 medium ships, and then having that 1 cargo bay left to repair. Yeah, you might want to take something else that can go off and repair other stuff. Yeah, pretty much self-explanatory. The cutlasses do actually have an extra sort of use here. The Freelancer might be good to take here as well. It's not as offensive as the Cutty, so it's not as good at defending the fleet as a Cutty would be, but say you do have a Hull C or some other big hull ship, D, E, whatever, and that ship can't get down to a planet's surface. So if it's a planet you're trading with, you might need some ferries, and so you're either going to use the Freelancers and the Cutties to port the goods up and down, which you're bringing anyway to help protect. And again, the Cutty might be an even better choice here, because again, the tractor beam. So the Kraken does have the capabilities to land on a planet, but it is not ideal for it. If you use the tractor beam on the Cutties, that could just help you get it back into space that wee bit easier, because I have seen ships like Vultures are often used for that as well, just being like tugboats to really help get your sort of bigger ships like the Kraken back off of a planet. And the Kraken, I think they said, is the biggest, or around the biggest ship they're going to have the ability to land on the planet and take back off unaided. Like, obviously, no matter what ship you are, if you drive close enough to a planet, you're eventually going to land. Like, you know, so anything can be landed, but not everything's going to be able to take back off again on its own, unaided. So a lot of big ships, you're going to need several tugs just to help you get up and out of the planet. Just similar to how large ships get out of port. In this day and age, sometimes they need the tugs to help them. So there we have it. I've enjoyed thinking up these templates for sort of organised play. If you have any sort of input for my templates I've said up here, or you think the balance is going to be slightly different, feel free to let me know in the comments, or even if you've thought up some of your own, I'd be interested to read them. These organised play templates, just the thought of them, they sound quite interesting to me, to say the least. And as we're speaking of organised play, I'm actually planning to set up my own org sometime in the near future to sort of facilitate this sort of organised online play. And it's something that really sort of interests me in Star Citizen, like players working together for mutual benefit, for mutual glory, for mutual extra money. It's actually something that really sort of interests me, so I'm planning to set up an org to sort of facilitate that. But my main sort of problem at the moment is I really don't know what to call it. I've been struggling for a couple of days thinking, what would be a good name? Because a name is important for an organisation. So if you have any suggestions, I would more than love to hear them in the comments. And if you have any interest in joining the org when I do set it up, and just so you're aware, you can join, I think it was up to 10 organisations, as long as the other organisations allow it. I'm pretty sure it is 10. So just joining mine wouldn't mean you can't join others, just as leaving that there. If you are interested in it whatsoever, the best way to go about it would be to join the Discord. I have a section just for Star Citizen that's probably going to be the main area for the org to talk, at least in the early days. Maybe eventually I'll set up its own Discord. The sort of main goal will be to sort of group play together, like in these sort of templates like we talked above. So with that all said and done, I hope you have all enjoyed this, and I shall see you all next time. Bye. Bye.